Hi there, I'm David Pearl and welcome to the Green Room. Before we go on, how are you? Because if you're anything like the people that I know, we're tired. It's been a long year, right? I mean, not many of us are at work, technically at work, but most of us seem to be working all the time, right? Well, the Green Room is a chance to unhook, to hit the pause button. It's a bit like, you know, there's a stage and there's the public. Well, the Green Room is like backstage. It's like the backstage of working life, a place you can unplug, unhook, hang out with other people who've been working really hard, exchange ideas, and maybe learn something. Yeah? Tonight is an odd one because we decided to stop the work in order to talk about a subject that is important to all of us, which is work. How is this work thing going to work? We're all looking at the media and hearing and thinking and seeing the experts talk and wondering, how is this work thing going to work? Well, tonight that's going to be something we're going to discuss here. Not, by the way, so that we get necessarily all the answers, and not definitely so that you have to kind of add to your to-do list. But we thought, let's have a creative conversation. We've got some wonderful people here. Let's have a long-form, improvised, off-the-cuff conversation and see what great ideas emerge. To do that, we've come here to a backstage area at King's Place in London. It's an art centre in London. And I've got to tell you, I love being backstage. I've been performing all my life, since I was a little wee one. And though I've had great times on stage, I think I enjoy backstage even more. It's where we design stuff, it's where we devise things, where we build things. It's where we improvise, where we rehearse, where we fall out with each other and we make up. It's noisy, it's chaotic, it's lovely. And that's why we really wanted to bring you here. So I think without any further ado, shall I show you around? Then we can get on with the event. Okay? So, come with me. Over here, we've got some wonderful guests. We're not going to talk to them yet, but they've got really interesting takes on the world of work and what may lie ahead. They don't think they're experts, by the way, but they've got amazing stuff to share with us. Well, we'll come with them soon. Now, behind us, we have the workshop area, where we have, you can see here, you've got Jo. That's Jo's my wife, and she is going to be sculpting our conversation in clay. Is that right, Jo?
Clay scribing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Clay scribing. Over here, you'll hear is let me just go over here and we'll meet him. There's our crazed and brilliant scenic designer, Colin, who is responsible for this design and I'm too scared to ask what he's actually doing, but he's working hard. Bruce over there is our stage manager. Yep, that's Bruce. None of this would happen without stage management. We've got Holly, we've got Kate, we've got Bruce. And of course, there's our wonderful film crew. Will, take a bow. There he is. Will, there's Ben over there. Hey, Colin, keep it down, would you? That's fine. Yeah, now, you'll have noticed that behind me, we have some people on the wall. And that's because due to COVID, we thought we wouldn't have an audience here tonight, not in the room, but instead, we have got what we call a Zoom chorus. Give it up for the Zoom chorus. Each one of them hand-chosen for their svelte good looks and debonair intelligence. So we'll be coming to them. They're going to be keeping us honest. They're going to be sending comments through to us, as are you, I hope, out there in the interweb world. And your comments come all the way down to here, which is the backstage of the backstage. This is the social media hub. There's Fiona, there's Rachel, there's Vanessa. So your comments, we really, really appreciate them. They come here, they get mulched, and they turn into creativity. Because remember, creativity isn't about what I think or what you think. It's the stuff that comes out the space between us. So send your comments in. Zoom Chorus, be sending your comments in. We're interested to know. Fertilize and germinate our discussion. Now, you'll have heard over on my left, we have what we call the music and drama department. Now, it looks a little bit like an office, and don't be put off. There are things that need to be written down backstage, right? So you have lines that need to be written by playwrights and notes that need to be written by composers. The thing about the backstage area, by the way, is that it's highly productive. I mean, when I started working in business, people would say, oh, this office is very productive. And I would think, well, it's productive, but not compared to the theatre.
David, I just need to, I'm doing 2 jobs tonight, so can I just...
Please.
Peter, could you go to aisle 4? There's a spillage. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter.
Come with me. Come with me. Come with me. Julian Phillips, as I live and breathe. There you are.
Well, hello, everybody. It's wonderful to be there with you virtually all the way from Philadelphia in the United States. Isn't this technology just wonderful?
It certainly is. It's joined us up, though we're physically distant. So before we get into it, as a collaborator, you saw the green room, and you're a techie guy in a way. You're senior vice president at AVI-SPL, and you've got this product, you've got this approach called Vibe. What did you see in the green room that made you think it would be worth us collaborating on this evening's show?
Well, you know, over the last several months, we've all had a lot of pain and there's been a lot of uncertainty. And certainly everyone knows that we've been told about the things we have to stop doing and the things that we can't do, especially right now in the holiday season. So I think what we want to do is really turn the conversation around to what can we do? What are the solutions we can find? And not necessarily just how we get ourselves out of COVID, but how do we actually start to collaborate with each other on creating better work, and that's obviously the subject of what we're going to talk about right now, but also better life too. And I think what the Green Room does, David, is it brings humanity to what we've been experiencing over the last several months, which is endless video calls, endless webinars. And so effectively, so many people are yearning that opportunity to reconnect with people, and this is just a fabulous format to do that.
Beautiful. So no pressure on us, guys. This is about bringing humanity to technology and to thinking not just about how we get back to work, but how we're going to get even better into work into the future. So I hope that's primed you, guests. Just before we do that, I want to go to our Zoom choir, our Zoom chorus, and ask them a question, and then we'll kick off. Let's swizzle you round, Julian, so you can enjoy the company of your fellow guests. Julian Phillips, people. Julian Phillips. Right. So, lovelies out there in Zoom land, your first task for this evening, I want you to imagine that you could plan your perfect week and all your waking hours were covered by 10 time units. So you have 10 time units to spend, and you can spend them on 3 things. We're not talking about sleeping, that's taken care of. You've got 3 things. A, work. You can spend some time on work if you want. B, play. You can spend some time just playing around. And the third thing you do, you can spend it on is work play, which is work that feels like play. So you can spend it on work, you can spend it on play, or you can spend it on work that feels like play. You can spend all 10 units on one thing. So if you're like a play person, that's 10. Your entire time, your waking time is playing. Or if you're a hardened work ethic person, you could spend 10 of it on, you get the idea. So what is your cocktail? What we'd love you to do is write it in the chat. It will go, by the miracle of the interweb, to Rachel with the mind of a planet. She is the Carol Vorderman of the Green Room. And she will, with the help of Fiona and of Vanessa, chew it into a statistically accurate average. And we will come back and find out how you guys would spend your time ideally, which allows me to now segue over here to the lovely guest corner. Aren't we lucky to be in the guest corner? Whoa. Welcome to the guest corner. So, hello there. Lovely to see you all. And just in case anyone was thinking we're going to start with CVs, we're not. All of you come here with incredibly impressive track records and careers. And that's not what we're interested in. We'll put them in the details of the show and people can check up on you and what you've done. What I want to start with, if it's okay, is what you love. What do you love about work? Work is often talked about as a kind of the opposite to work-life balance. So, okay, you're living or you're working. I don't think so. What I'd love to do is for us here to start from the point of view of we work because there's something we love about it. And that's being respect for the people, by the way, who currently don't have work. But let's just start with what you love about your work. And I'm going to start with the person that looks the most prepared, which is Govinda. Govinda Khurana, who is having said I won't do your CV, I will just say that you are an interior architect and that you run a company called Align.
Yeah. I think the thing that gets me out of bed every day and what I really love is the way it makes people feel when I help deliver a workplace project. There is something really special about walking in, having spent months and months and months coming up with a creative solution to their problems and seeing the joy and happiness. And I've had people cry with gratitude, which blows my mind.
I saw you nod, Kay, when you said the joy, the clients breaking down in tears. You are I'm just going to say champion. You're also a warrior of the workplace. You're the head of workplace at HOK, one of the globe's biggest architectural engineering companies. What is it you love about what you do, Kay?
I really believe in my heart of hearts that what we do makes a difference and that we can truly make people's lives better by creating powerful experiences. And I say experiences because we are no longer just designing environments, really designing the entire experience. And we, for a long time, have had the art of design, but there absolutely is a science to it. I wake up every day excited about being a provocateur, pushing the boundaries, creating better environments, and addressing some of the big problems that we have today through creating great experiences for people.
So for you, it's the art and the science. There's something about making the world better through work. And it's not there's work and there's making the world better, but somehow it's as though, I know Julian, we talk about this, work is in a way kind of the answer. It's not the problem. In some ways, it's the answer. We'll come to some of the things that, the elephants in the room, if you like. I know at times it isn't always plain sailing with either of you when talking to clients about creating workspace, but it's good to see you connect with what you love. Bruce Daisley. Bruce Daisley, lovely to see you here, sir. You're a friend of the Green Room. This is your second. You were here for the very first pilot.
I'm delighted to be here in person this time.
Yeah, I agree. It's lovely to. You're taller than you look on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. Is that
Not
good?
younger, but
right,
taller.
Right.
Bruce Daisley. I mean, you've got the word career means not, as most people think, a straight line, but it means to zigzag down the hill in an unpredictable manner. You're European Vice President of Twitter, author, podcaster extraordinaire. What is it? Is there some red thread to what you love?
I'm not at Twitter anymore, just before I get verification requests coming in. I mean, for me, the permanent association between lack of some accomplishment, but everyone falls about laughing and these moments of connection. And I think it's the strange thing. I chatted to someone at the start of lockdown, and I said to them, do you think about a month in, 6 weeks in, which of course is almost a lifetime away now, but I said, do you feel like you've laughed more or less? And I asked it as a poll afterwards, actually, online. And the majority of people, 2/3 of people said they'd laughed less during lockdown. And I think, it's not to say that you can't laugh with the people you share a house with or the people you share a life with, but it's often that sort of randomness that produces laughter. It's like unexpected things that produce laughter. So I think that's one of the things that we've lost that we'll rediscover fondly next year.
Is laughter helpful for a successful business or just a nice to have, would you say?
I chatted to this fascinating guy, a guy called Robert Provine, who passed away about 12 months ago now, but he was like the world's leading expert on laughter. He said, look, it's an interesting thing. He said there's somewhere in the region of 100,000 scientific papers on anxiety and depression, and about 25 to 100 on laughter. He said that, it's regarded as frivolous. If you pull up a chair next to academic colleague and you say, I'm doing a paper on laughter, they sort of roll their eyes. It's a bit like, haven't you got any real work to be getting on with?
Yeah,
and so as a result, no one did papers on it. But he said, the best way to think about laughter is it's a human equivalent of birdsong. So why do birds sing? They sing to sort of connect with each other, to tell themselves where they are. They sort of forge a network through their singing. And humans do the same. Humans, we only laugh with people we like. So if you find yourself around the Christmas dinner table, if such a thing exists this year, and you find yourself and no one's laughing, that probably says a lot about the relationships around that table.
Yeah.
We only laugh with people we like. And that was the tell.
You know, they say that on average, children laugh, I think, 100 times a day, and adults often laugh 5.
Yeah.
Which is kind of depressing when you think about that. But then you think about the fact that children cry about 20 times a day. I usually only cry once a day, so maybe it all works out in the wash.
We cry, I think we cry inside is what we cry. Julian, you're very involved in the, in this process, the audio-visual connection of people, remote working, digitising the office and so on. What's at the heart of what you love about your work, Julian?
It's really important that we do gather again and we do rediscover that human connection, because visually connecting with people is one thing, but those other emotional triggers, those other things that create humanity are just as important. And so I'm very much looking forward for the time that we do get back together again physically. Yes, there will be more video, that's given. But I think when we do gather again, the experience is going to have to be a lot greater, and an incentive for us to actually want to travel and commute to gather again. And so I think that's the challenge that we're all faced with right now, is not how do we go back to the way it used to be, but how do we actually create a workplace where we really enjoy each other and actually become more creative and more productive than we've ever been before.
Anu, as the MD of Ben & Jerry, I'm going to have to press you, favourite Ben & Jerry flavour? And there's no I love them all. You have to fess up right here, right now.
Fish food. My daughter learned to count with fish food.
So thank you for that. All over the Ben & Jerry empire, there are people weeping quietly into their cones, going like, she doesn't like Chunky Monkey as much as I do. But anyway, Anuradha, what is it you love about your work? It's a pretty full. I imagine being MD of Ben & Jerry in Europe is pretty full on at the moment with everything. What are you finding you love about your work?
There's a lot to love about the work. Not just the ice cream. I think what we say is that we bring joy and justice to the world, because we're an activist company that happens to sell the best ice cream, and it requires a lot of collaboration and co-working by a lot of people. And I think that's the bit that I love the most.
You love the collaboration. And I remember you said to me very early in lockdown, if we can remember back that far, you said you'd thrown all your paper away and you'd spent your whole time just looking at your team's faces, and everything became very face-to-face. Is that still the case? Is there something for you that's important about that?
It is very special. I mean, one good thing about this is no one remembers how short I really am, because everything is like an equal footing right now. So normally, when I'm with you, for example, I'm like almost half your height. But right now on this video, we're all the same.
Well, not even more than that. You're actually, Anu is you're towering above us. So there's a little bit of equality there. Those of us who are interested in, a more equal workplace. Anu, you're now 6'3". You're just so you know. And in fact, we could even jack the screen up so you're taller than all of us, if you'd appreciate that. Anu, I know you are somebody. I met you through an odd connection, on an odd angle, which was mindfulness. My understanding is you brought mindfulness a little bit into your work. Why was that important? What does it mean for you?
It's your whole self, because again, coming back to each of us and why we all work, working on your inner game really makes you not have a disconnect between your work and yourself. It's not something artificial you're doing, you're bringing your whole self to it.
so you can kind of integrate the inside and the outside and stuff. Let's see if that's true, because I've managed to get the person that taught you mindfulness, or some mindfulness, is actually in our Zoom chorus. So I'm going to go, if you'll excuse me for a moment, and I'm going to see whether, because we've had an interesting time already backstage here. We've had our fair share of technical challenges, and I know I could do with a little bit of mindfulness just to see what happens. So I'm going to ask Louise if she'll give us like 2 or 3 minutes of mindfulness. Let's go over there. Louise Cox-Chester, time for some mindfulness.
Lovely to be with you all.
So, Louise, mindfulness, is it possible to do a bit of mindfulness, or is it a kind of life practice? When you're working, you lead mindfulness at work, and I know you're often under pressure to kind of zip into organizations and do some high-velocity mindfulness. Is it possible to do that? Can you give us all a little bit of a taste of that now?
Absolutely, and I think it's always possible for us to become more mindful in every moment, and it's all about practicing it so that we become a little bit better at it.
Well, what I would love, if it's at all possible, because what we're doing here is a creative act, not a business meeting. This is nothing wrong with a business meeting, but we're going a little bit further than that. And I think what we're trying to do is to get everyone to connect the way these guys have been talking about, so we can get really creative with this question: how's work going to work? So is there anything you could do to kind of turbocharge our creative receptiveness and our connectivity? And if so, no pressure, do it now.
I think the most important thing is that despite the amount of distractions we might have around us, is just getting present with ourselves. And so why don't we just do that for a moment now? Just maybe closing our eyes or lowering our gaze and going inwards for a moment and starting to just greet ourselves as we would a dear friend, saying hello. How are you? This living, breathing being that we are. Perhaps noticing what it feels like to just be here now, and choosing to return to this beautiful group and this wonderful conversation we're having.
Great. Louise, that's lovely. I'm not sure, are you supposed to applaud mindfulness? It's like, woo, woo.
I'll take it.
It was like so nice, so thank you. So I'm going to move this one on. It's lovely that you... Sorry, we've got a comment here from the drama department.
It's not necessarily a song. It's just that if you go online, you can find people in inappropriate jobs, and there's a meme of a Dalek doing exactly what Louise did so brilliantly. So you have a Dalek going, just relax. And it's I just thought I'd mention that if you do want to have a surprised laugh every now and then, as Bruce was mentioning, it's a very good place to go.
I'm not sure if the people out there particularly in the US, know what a Dalek is, but put it into Google, Dalek mindfulness, and enjoy that. So I'm coming over to the backstage of the backstage, to Rachel and to Fiona. Do we have a number? We asked before whether our Zoom chorus, our beautiful Zoom chorus here, do we know how much on average they would spend on work play and work play?
We do. The results are in.
The results are in.
Results time.
So on work, the average of all the responses was 1. So 1 out of 10 on work.
So on average, they did spend a bit of time, they're not complete loafers. They spent 1 on work. How much did they spend on playtime?
Playtime was 2.67.
2.67. You can see where this is going. And how much did they spend on time that looked like there was play that feels like work?
That was a whopping 6.33.
A whopping 6.33. I'm not a mathematician, but I'm not sure that adds up to 10. But does it add up to 10? But anyway, the point is well made.
I think so.
I think our Zoom chorus are not alone in yearning, a little bit like I think Bruce was saying, for work that feels joyful, that feels playful. And as you know, what is it they say? You know, if you're doing what you love, you never work a day in your life. I remember what Ken Campbell said. The lovely Ken Campbell is a great theatre practitioner, innovator, really. So this is all far too important to take seriously. And obviously, the question of the world of work and what we're going to do with it, how work's going to work, is a serious conversation. But let's keep it light. So I'm coming over now, back to my friends here, and I'm going to ask, and I'm going to take up a standing position, just to keep three-dimensional, inspired by Louise, and remembering that our mind is in our body too. And I'm going to ask you, all of you have your own angles into this question. And I'd love to hear, and I know we'd all love to hear, and the people out there would love to hear, what kind of things are you seeing about how and where we're going to work? Kay, I'm going to start with you because you think a lot, obviously, about workplace. And obviously, you've got a lot of expertise in the corporate workplace, but what things are you seeing that excite you?
So I think organically, we actually have been working this way for a long time. You know, I think it's interesting when people go home in the beginning of the pandemic and people were so surprised that people could be productive. People have been working from home for 30 years, right? This is not new. People want options. We need to give people the ability to work from home maybe a few days. And I think what we need to do is to design each one of these with intent and purpose so that it's compelling enough that what I'm getting when I go is different than what I get from home, and it's an exciting, compelling environment. And it's this new ecosystem of spaces that come together that really solve what I think we're going to be seeing going forward.
So this sense that we have to kind of not just attract, but galvanize people, give people a reason to gather, to come to a more conventional workplace that is kind of better than, more comfortable than their home. Bruce, I know you've thought and sort of talked to a lot of people about this. What's the kind of data that you're seeing on this and the kind of the findings about whether people want to be at home, want to be at the office, and so on?
Yeah, I think there is a recognition, like 85% of people say they'd like to work a couple of days a week at home. So I think there is a recognition. I saw something saying that chief execs have noticed this. 2/3 of chief execs think their offices are going to be smaller. So workplaces are going to be smaller. But there's probably a number of different things that the office does that we just need to be aware of. So for some people, the office is a great workshop. You know, you can only do certain jobs when you've got a wonderful place to do it. And sometimes that workshop is getting people together in a room and having conversations. So I think what we do know as well is that one thing we find is when we gather, whether it's the cohesion of individual groups or whether it's workplaces, that we do seem to have like this chemical connection with each other that it's very difficult to forge when you've got a sea of faces on a video screen. There is something very different. I saw someone last week describe the big difference, the big effect that religious gatherings have is less about the organised religion and more about the social effect that it has upon us of being in a room, doing something at one with other people. So there is something that we lose if we don't do that. And I think that's one of the things we need to be aware of, that, you know, if people can choose what day they feel best empowered themselves to work at home, you might find that there's no synchronization. That, you know, I choose to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in the office, you choose to work a glorious Thursday, Friday, and we never have that moment of synchronization. So I do think there's probably a degree of trying to align around one or two anchor points that we say Tuesday is everyone's here, or, you know, Friday is we're just going to have this gathering on Fridays. That's going to be
because you
one
need
thing
the
that
energy,
defines
don't
us.
you?
Yeah.
You do need the energy, and that's what will be missing if you don't do that.
That's right.
Yeah. So I think actually you will have to, although we want to give people greater flexibility, you have to give some people, or people are going to have to be given parameters within that flexibility.
Sort of fuzziness, but within a framework.
Yeah.
Anuradha, you run a wide team. Do you trust that people are working when you can't see them working? Because there's this sense, isn't there, often that an office, one of the things the office is, it's a sort of Taylorist principle, isn't it? That kind of the manager sits there and watches people looking busy. But genuinely, how can you trust, or as an MD, do you trust people that they're doing the work that they need to do? I mean, how does that work for you if you're remote this way?
You know, it's just I'm sorry if I say that, but it's really the very old-fashioned men that have had a problem. Everyone else has been sitting
So as
pretty
far as
relaxed.
it's not a problem for you guys. Is that right? Not a problem.
And if you had that mistrust in you before, you'll still have it. But if you had it no mistrust before, that's not an issue.
Very good, very good. Julian, you run and have run larger companies. What do you see happening in the workplace? Where do you think this is heading?
Well, this is me desperately trying to not be an old-fashioned man. So one of the things that we do need to do, back to Anu's point, is we need to find a way to bring democratization to the workplace that is actually going to empower people who are joining remotely to have the same kind of experience that they would do in physical space, because this will be part of our reality moving forward. It has been for a long time, but a lot of people that have been remote workers have really been treated like red-headed stepchildren and not been afforded the level of support and certainly the amount of investment that we have ploughed into workplace and buildings and other things. And so I think we're going to see an equalization to a point where there's going to be a higher level of investment in supporting people working remotely. I think what we need to also do is, in the same time that we're planning for everybody gathering together again, which we've said is going to have to be more special than it was before, we are going to have to invest more in that home working and remote experience as well. And that means that we're going to have to accommodate not just people having a strong connection so that they can be heard, but we're also going to have to think about the way that meetings are conducted to enable people who are actually joining remotely to be able to have their word, and for everyone to listen, and for us to actually take action on the collection of the group rather than just the person in the room at the head of the table making all the decisions.
So, those of you viewing on the internet, we're moving to think about what are the components of your ideal workplace? You've got people here who think about and are involved in designing the workplaces of the future. And Zoom Chorus, you too. I see an expert there, Chris Kane. Actually, I'm going to come over to Chris Kane, ask him a question, and then we're going to hear, Fiona, let's hear from the future generations and see what they have to say, because we were asking them. Those of you who are designing workplaces of the future, we thought, why don't we talk to the people who are going to be in them? But before I do that, let me just come up to Chris Kane. Chris Kane's written a book. Actually, several people have written a book. Here's Bruce Daisley's one of Bruce Daisley's work, the joy, oh, I didn't mean to throw it. The joy of work, I put it down. Where is my office? This is Chris Kane's book. Also, Klaus Rastatt, who's out there. This just came through my door. Well done, you. The Innovation Cycle. Fantastic. But I've got Chris Kane's book here. Chris, you've written a book called Where is My Office? And I just wondered, you've thought a lot about it. You're you are a bit of a maven in the corporate real estate business. Chris, thinking about what comes next, you've been at the BBC and Disney and Coca-Cola looking at their real estate. Just in case we don't get a chance to read the book, what do we need to know in a sentence or two?
Thank you, David. Listening to the conversation, we should listen to how we're speaking about this. We're talking about remote work and remote workers, and yet we talk about empathy and we talk about democratization. The office may not be obsolete, but the system underpinning it is. We have got too big a fixation with the physical. Kate talked earlier about getting to the office. What we need to do is to distribute these offices from CBDs out to the suburbs and to places near people's homes, so people can exercise the choice that many of us have had for the last 10, 15 years, but also put the people back into the process rather than trying to act as if we were machines. And we need to look at the views of the leaders of the future. For too long, we've been trying to impose our views as the Grey Brigade, I certainly qualify for that, on people who are coming into it. The game has changed. We now all need to have an active part in really shaping a workplace which is human-centric and where we can actually be much more empathetic and we can have real valued-led working, which is much more sustainable.
Beautiful, thank you, well said. Adir, you're right next to Chris on the screen. You and I met in a not to be named, but pretty large corporate bank, and that's been your background there. Looking back, what won't you miss about the old style of working in offices, if you like?
The ability to adapt, because obviously when you're in the office, there's just a certain way that things work. Since lockdown, what you've realised is a lot of meetings that were meetings for meeting's sake, so now they weren't needed. You're doing things in different ways and realising how more efficient you could be. And I think when I look at it as a whole, it's just about adapting, which I kind of like. And I think it's a skill that we're going to need as the world moves in the direction that it's going.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So we've gone sort of from like a glut of meetings when, and I remember those meetings, we didn't love them, is my memory. And I don't remember anybody saying, God, we need more meetings, to a period where people say, please, let me go to a meeting. But I hear you say, and I'm hearing over here as well, one size doesn't fit all. We've got to be selective. We've got to prize that active meeting as a precious thing, which I think in some ways in the post-industrial world, it is. Getting together the way we are doing now with all the challenges in the COVID era is a precious thing. I always feel like conversation it's kind of like the steam engine of the post-industrial age. It's where the real stuff happens. So let's just pause for a second and let's hear from the future. Fiona, you we sent you off on an intrepid mission to talk to some younger people from the future, and just tell us how that was. You zoomed up and you spoke to some people.
Yeah, I like to think of myself as the link between the 2 generations, or the 3 generations, or 4, or how many we have. You were saying that these are the workers of the future, these are the lawmakers of the future. You know, one of the amazing young women I spoke to, she's 16, she's in LA, and she wants to be a defense lawyer, you know. And these people are going to, they're the creators of the future, and so we want to know what they want, how they want to work, where they want to be.
Well, I'm sure you guys have all had experiences of, you know, having to adapt your thinking for Gen Y, Gen Z, and so on. Let's have just a quick look at, I mean, you spoke to these young people. Some of them are on the call right now, but you spoke to them, that you each gave them sort of half an hour. We boiled that down to a frisky 3.5 minutes. Let's just take a quick look at it, and for you guys, take a listen, and then maybe that will also fertilise the next stage of our conversation. Roll VT.
My name is Tegan Bannister and I am a musical theatre performer.
I'm Francesca Chamberlain and I'm a student.
And I'm a creative wacko, basically.
I'm a citizen of the world.
I am an entrepreneur, yes. I would like to be a good entrepreneur, and I feel like I'm a beginner entrepreneur right now.
Hope, lifeline, joy.
The word that keeps coming to my brain is multifaceted, but I'm not sure if that's is a hyphen word count.
Worthwhile, tiresome,
tiring.
It's such a typical thing that you hear about, like Asian households want their kids to be like dentists and doctors and lawyers, right?
Not enjoying doing what you're doing. You work a lot and not being able to enjoy it. I wouldn't want to do a job that I hated doing.
I always ask him, what actually is your job? What do you do? And he never gives me a straight answer. He can't do it.
Everyone who's sort of like an older generation, they say, like, make sure what you do, you love doing it, and is this what I want to do is this what I love? I don't know what I love right now.
The main thing is not to have that sense of judgment towards what someone's choices are and what they want to do that makes them happy. I think to not repeat that cycle from my parents.
Sort of want to follow their lead a bit, because their example is basically follow what you want to do.
Ooh, God, this is hard.
Like you come in the morning and literally everyone's and you're like, how are you doing? You're like, I'm great. And like, you can hug people.
It would be free of judgment, absolutely free of judgment, fair.
I'd want it to be casual, like you wouldn't have to like dress up to go to work.
to be myself fully with no fear of judgment.
I think it has to be quite social. I'm an incredibly social person. I want to meet people. That's how I get, it's part of how I get value from life.
And I think my ideal workplace would also not follow me home.
I don't want to feel like work has to be my like ultimate purpose to the point where I'm unhappy.
Make it inclusive for everyone.
I would love to work somewhere with a lot of light and like a lot of windows.
Well, diversity, obviously.
I know friends who have disabilities who, when they walk into a space, don't feel included.
You have to work hard to lift up other communities to be able to create equality. Obviously, it doesn't just extend to Black people, people of colour. It goes for disabilities, gender, literally everything.
I'm talking about, you know, like 80s sort of style offices where you're just there, that's your desk and that's where you live. That is just insane to me. I would go, it would feel like lockdown again, but you're choosing it, which is even more weird.
So I think you've got a bit of a sense of it, this desire for a workplace that's more equal, that's more tolerant, that's more joyful. People don't want to be stuck, as it appears, in this sort of 80s style office. I think many of the things I think you're hearing, you're also probably hearing from your clients and so on. So I'd love to shift gears so that we don't spend the rest of our time admiring the problem, which is easy to do. What are some of the aspects that you think we should be developing, investing in?
I think where we're headed is towards a greater responsibility and sustainability. I think, you know, we need to be caring about the environments we create. So whatever we do, some of the cards that I've bought, and I'll pull them out, you know, there is repurposing. I think we've got to start being respectful to the buildings we already have and the green spaces that we already have, so that we're not just constantly building on top of green space.
Show us some of the imagery.
I've got a few. I suppose I've got a few things that I've been thinking. Which, when you look back at the Edwardian times, they had these amazing spaces that people went and sat in, and they did thinking, and they did work, and they did chats, and you know, I love this. This is
what do you love about
Cecil Beaton. In Vogue 1968, and I love the fact that he's in this beautiful structure. So it's almost like structures within structures. And he was being creative, and he was being theatrical, and he was being generally just fabulous. And we were doing that back in the 60s.
Generally just fabulous. I think that you've given us a possible way forward. Let's generally just be fabulous. I believe that factories were originally places that people would tour. They would do tours of the manufacturers in the potteries and stuff. It was a place you went to learn.
Yeah. But I think, you know, the repurposing, we've been doing repurposing of old buildings for a long time. And the ones that we're building need to be more sustainable. And the Netherlands have got this, you know, they are doing it. And I think the UK needs, we're a creative hub. I mean, I remember when I came to London for university, it was all about creativity. You know, that's what you came to London because it was the hub of creativity. And we need...
Let's hear it for creativity, people. Ooh, hey.
So I think that's going to be a part of workplace going forward.
Yeah.
But I think being kinder to the planet and the world that we're living in.
Yes.
So reusing brownfield spaces, creating these beautiful places that we've all run to during lockdown.
Yeah.
You know, everybody, as quick as they were let out and be free, ran.
To the parks, to the gardens, to the canals. Bruce was doing walks on canals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
To the sea.
You're nodding. You can't see, but no. Kay is nodding her vociferously behind you. Kay, you know your company HOK used to large, new, sparkly buildings. Mm-hmm. You're nodding. What do you agree with here? Anything you take issue with here? Where would you go further?
Well, I agree 1,000% in adaptive reuse. The most sustainable solution is the one that you already have. If let's not, you know, and that's coming from somebody who creates new spaces and new buildings, but we need to think about ways to be adaptive. We also have to tap into something that isn't very common, and that is common sense. Here's the problem. For way too long, we've designed spaces like they're supposed to be flexible and adaptable. But we are the most adaptable, flexible thing in any space. We're the only thing that has two legs and can move. We need to stop designing spaces like we're potted plants sit in place and we never move. One of the best things that you can do is get up and go outside. We need to create more outdoor space, but it has to have shading. It has to have, access to the amenities that we need. It has to have access to power so that you can actually function and stay out there. I mean, I find it comical that we're spending all this time trying to incorporate circadian lighting into spaces when all you have to do is get up and walk outside. If you want access to daylight, go outside. Biophilia, walk outside, right? And so sometimes, again, the most obvious answers we tend to just overlook. We need to put people in environments where their creativity and their juice can flow. A lot of the best innovations have happened in garages, but maybe we need to introduce the notion of garagification. How do I make a corporate office more like a garage where people feel like they can get messy, they can innovate, they can create, they can do things? Or maybe the backstage, since that's where you all are right now, maybe all offices should look more like the backstage, right? Where it's meant to get messy and encourages that innovation and creativity.
Everyone, do you hear that? We're bleeding edge here. Everything should look like this. Everything should look like you. That's beautiful. I love this idea. Remember, we can move. We're not potted plants. And so many people have discovered during lockdown the beauty of going outside. As you were saying, Street Wisdom, our non-profit, is all about, we used to be saying to people, leave the office at lunchtime, go for a walk. Now, we don't have to say that to people. People are really desperate to get outside. Bruce, you're nodding, you're throw some spice into the pot here. What else should we be looking for? Would you be saying, look, here's 2 or 3 things we could be doing that really change work in the future?
Yeah, there's a really interesting conversation that we were having about how this is going to impact cities. And you see some of this is already taking place. The idea of the 15-minute city, which I don't think the Mayor of Paris came up with, but certainly she's not alone in talking about the 15-minute city. The idea that you would live and work and shop in walking distance from where you live. But the question we were having is, how will this start transforming cities? Because to some extent, if you're going to have a lot of office space that no longer is in demand, then the question becomes, what do you do with it? And you either rip it down or you repurpose it. And in the spirit of what we're saying right now, the best space you've got is the space that's already there. Then there's going to be this question that what do you do with these business districts? The idea of a business district might, to some extent, become disrupted. Most of us know that the high street has been ravaged by the internet in the last 10, 15 years. But that happened when 15% of online retail went online. 15% retail went online. So if we see 15% of offices suddenly no longer used, what impact is that going to have? And are we going to find, we were talking about, are we going to find young people living in repurposed office blocks?
Just hold that thought. Just hold that thought for a second. Online audience. Bruce just asked a question. Get tapping. What are we going to do with the cities? What all this empty extra space? What ideas can we come up that we could use them for? Yeah, brilliant. Sorry, let's go back. I didn't want to interrupt, but I wanted to interrupt.
I was just going to say, it's like another industrial revolution, isn't it? It's the next one.
Yeah.
Because back then, it changed. People moved to create cities. And now we're going to just completely redefine what a city is. Cities won't go away. Offices won't go away. But their purpose and their presentation is going to fundamentally change.
Beautiful. Anu, I saw you were nodding, particularly this idea of repurposing empty buildings and so on. Why are you enthusiastic about that? What do you connect with?
I think when you start with really saying that we need creativity, we need people to connect. It's not just people within the office that need to connect. It's really how do we allow more flow in and out, not just with nature and environment, but the community. For example, the offices repurposed for, Tuesdays people come and meet, right? That's fine. But then you, just like how you've got something going actually with this green room that you created. So you've got a potter who's working there on the side. You can have NGOs who take the space on some of the other days and then come in and work. You can have allotments on the ground floor where the school that's nearby is actually allowed to come in. And businesses like that. And then that creates space for creativity.
Space for creativity, beautiful. You know, Kay was talking about get out and walk out into the green spaces that we've got. I hear you say, why don't we interact with areas that the business wouldn't normally touch? So other businesses, social issues, unemployed people. I'm just, as we've got a rolling boil here, I'm told that our Zoom chorus is also excited. So let me just go over there for a second to see if you've lit a fire with them. What are our Zoom chorus saying, by the way? What sort of things?
We've got some really great comments, lots of agreement, lots of enthusiasm.
Agreement? Enthusiasm? We're not going to get creative if we agree. Come on.
We've got people saying, yes, need to get outside, street wisdom. We're big fans of street wisdom. Louise has asked a really interesting question that I don't think we've covered around what does the next normal of work do for diversity, equity and inclusion, which is a really good point.
Say that again.
What does the new normal of work, or the next normal of work, do for diversity, equity and inclusion?
Diversity. Kay is waving. Hold that thought.
Hey, Kay.
So, Kay, what do you got?
We need to buckle up and embrace the concept of the new now, not the new normal. And we may not be plateauing for a while. I think we're in for a rough 18 to 36 months as things reset. However, social equity, neurodiversity, inclusivity, I believe is going to be the next really big thing that we all truly need to address and tackle.
So there is no the office of the future, right? It's a whole series of options customized to different people, to different desires, to different purposes. A challenge for sure, but what we're hearing is that's super important. That's what we're going to need if we're going to encourage people out of their homes, over and above the desire to gather and to synchronize and to buzz. You talk a lot about buzz. Give us some of the elements that you think we'll need to buzz in the future.
Well, you know, I mean, think about services, right? So what if you arrived at the office and it was more like arriving in a Ritz-Carlton, where somebody was there to greet you and to help make your life easier and to help cater solutions for you, and that had the great coffee and great experience, and you had access to amazing tools and services and a concierge service, and you had access to your coworkers, and maybe there's innovation hubs, and it's where you're going to get the design lab or the maker spaces or podcast spaces, right? It's a different experience and something that is compelling enough that I want to go there. I don't need to be there every day, but it's offering me a set of services that I cannot necessarily get at home. And then maybe the spoke, which is that element in between, is more of that casual drop in, bring your dog, bring your jeans, connect with your colleagues, and maybe get access to some medical tools. But I don't have to drive an hour or commute into the city to do that. Those are more community or neighborhood based. And I love the comment about we need to tap into the sharing economy. Access is the new ownership. Okay, I don't have to own something. I just have to have access to it. And if we started thinking that way and creating community centers that should support multiple companies with one amazing conference center and, you know, maybe some food choices and some pop-up things, those create a whole new vibe that are really brilliant and people want to be in.
Beautiful. So we don't have to own it, not just one sharing economy. Julian, what do you got? I saw that you wanted to add something there.
So the nature of work itself is changing. And I think the thing that we need to be excited by is not that jobs are going to go away and livelihoods are not going to be provided, but it does create opportunity for us to do different things. And I think that the very nature of the jobs in the future are going to demand creativity. They're going to demand collaboration. They're going to demand people of different backgrounds, from diverse viewpoints as well as cultures and backgrounds, to come together to really help us to solve some of the big problems we have in the world today. And boy, oh boy, do we have some problems. So I think the very positivity of this is the nature of work is going to change, and it's going to create more opportunities than we've had before. But we have to be open to think differently, to behave differently, and to be brave. And I think it's really that courage that we need to take forward right now and not be constantly fearful of the situation as it is today.
well said. And I think as you were talking, I was feeling that in this room, in the sense of it, this is a collection of people who are creative, who have been courageous and actually been working as we've been talking. And in a minute, I'd love to share with you what your conversation, what our conversation has created in terms of output. Because it didn't feel like a working meeting, but we've been working. Before I do that, I just wanted you to spark something for me, which was, just before I did this evening, I was at the back of my mind thinking, where did I learn about work? Why did I always think that work was supposed to be in an office building? And it took me back to this book, which I'd lost my copy, but I got a new copy. And it's called What Do People Do All Day? And it's read to, I don't know, 3 or 4-year-olds. And I just thought it was very interesting what it's. I'm going to read you from it. I hope that's okay. I don't know what the copyright on this is, but still. Richard Scarry, this is in honor of you. First page. And it says, everyone is a worker. How many workers are there? Farmer Alfalfa grows all kinds of food. He keeps some of it for his family. Hi, Daddy. He sells the rest to Grocer Cat in exchange for money. Grocer Cat will send the food to other people in Busy Town. And I thought, that's Marx, basically. That is basically our system right here. And there's a sort of beauty in this. Everyone is a worker. To your point, Julian, we're going to have to adjust to thinking about people having a job, to thinking more broadly about what kinds of work there are, how it's valued, how it's compensated, and where it's done. Let's go and have a look and see what work you have sparked and stimulated in the creative people that are in this room. So first and foremost, let me come to Jo, who is right here, who has been sculpting this. She has been clay
scribing. Trying to capture it in clay.
So Jo, let's kind of have a look and see what have you got. What has this conversation sparked in you?
So one of the first part of the conversation was all about connectivity and sparking ideas, and how that's where great work happens, where people come together and spark.
So this kind of interweaving
thing. The idea of laughter and inspiration being key in work, and there's this sort of blooming of creativity, and what have I got there? Creativity and empathizing.
Inclusivity, I think.
Yeah.
We've got the word inclusive.
Inclusivity, yeah. And then I liked, we were talking about the office, what we do like and what we don't like. There is no office of the future, and here we've got a farm, an urban farm happening in the repurposed town, with wind turbines on top. And this is a kind of play of Together on Tuesdays, how we come together in a dance, a balletic dance. Yeah. Thank you.
You reminded me also what you were saying, both Jo and Bruce, of what Charles Handy, our friend Charles Handy, said. He said this years ago, but he said, in the future, the wisdom will come in on Tuesday. The idea being that not everyone would be sat all the time, all of your resources. You would be adapting, you'd be bespoking, you'd be having new rituals, and there'd be a day when you bring people together to do the wisdom work, and that might be a Tuesday. So lovely, super fine. I'm coming to, I'm wondering, Simon, whether any imagery has come through. So Simon is the Green Room's very own Tintoretto.
We're at the sort of tail end of 2020, and it's been a more knackering year than usual. I had this kind of I can't remember who did it originally. I've got the Bruce Springsteen version running through my head, but this kind of work, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing.
Say it again.
I'm a bit of a workplace skeptic. All work and no play, that's just my naked bum running into the sea there. Bringing humanity back. I like the work is meaningless without connection. I've got the Zoom call here. Someone's cat making an appearance, and then we had some other stuff in part 2. We've built in a little space for mindfulness here. Well, Daleks don't ever make it to the boardroom because they can't get up the stairs.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Simon. So he looks like anyone else on the call, but he isn't. His name is Philip Cowell, and he speaks not in normal vernacular language. He speaks the language of poetry. He's our bard. He's our poet at large. And I'm wondering, as you've been listening in, Philip, whether you heard anything that sparked your poetic muse. We've been talking about work. What's fired off in your mind?
Totally. Thank you so much. So there's the great poet of work, Philip Larkin, who obviously opened one of his poems, "Why should I let the toad work squat on my life?" So instead of that, I thought I'd write a really positive poem about work. No toads here. And I want everyone to think, what would your work spirit animal be? But anyway, here's my poem, which is inspired by your amazing chat. It's called Your Work. Let me tell you what your work is if you ever lose your way. Your work is what your playful heart can't help but do today. Your work is how you make people feel, how you create connection and play. Your work is how you turn up to your inner and outer experience today. Your work is a cup of tea and a natter, fooling about laughing with people that matter. Your work is making the world better. Your work is deep. Your work is long. Your work is the human equivalent of birdsong.
Oh. Oh, so beautiful. And talking of beauty, talking of unchained beauty, Colin Peters. So over in the design department, extraordinary things have been happening. I'm not sure exactly what they are, but I'm going to just go and have a word with Colin now. Colin, you've been working away.
Yeah.
Feel a little bit like someone that's commissioned an artwork. I'm not entirely sure what I'm looking at here, but take us through this. What do we have here?
Okay, so what you've got here is a transitional sculpture. It's not exactly in embryo form, and it certainly isn't finished. Yeah, it's on the way to something. Well, I've been listening to what people are saying, and I suppose the thing you can say about the future is we never really arrive there. We're always kind of on the way to the future. And so I've created a thing that's both on the way to something and very messy. And I suppose if I can make one sure prediction about the future of work, it will be very messy, and it will be unfinished, which is what you've got here. And you mentioned earlier about the elephant in the room, and I feel that this conversation needs an elephant in the room, so I've created one here.
Yeah, we said that earlier on. Yes, yeah. What is the elephant in the room?
Well, this is the early Cubist version, and then I've got a more finished variety over here. So
I'm seeing what you've done out of cardboard.
Yeah. So if you put the head on, you can sort of start to see what it might look like.
Oh.
Joe, can you just... there you go.
In the future workplace, let's put the elephant in the middle of the room. Beautiful.
Yeah, but only transitionally.
It's a transitional statement. That's right. I mean, as Kay was saying, today is the slowest the world will ever be moving. So now it's all about what we're doing now. Thank you, Colin. You're a crazed man. Brilliant. The genius of cardboard. Neil.
Yeah.
Anthony.
Yes.
I'm guessing that what you've heard here and seen here has played upon your creative faculties.
Well, there's much to embrace about what's been said, but I think if I could apply it to my life and not change one thing about it and be in accordance with the general drift of the conversation, I will go home tonight and I will sing this song to my wife about the nominal office space we have at home.
Take it away. Neil Ashdown, Anthony Ingle.
She looks at me and smiles. She looks at me and frowns. She says, why, oh, why, oh, why is all that shit upon the ground? There are pencils and papers and sheets and print ribbons. There are unexplicable drawings of gibbons. There are scrolls and little ditties and things that look quite pretty, but none of it makes any sense to me. And I'll say, that's what work looks like, baby. That's how work just comes true. That's what work looks like, baby. It's time it looked like that to you. I'll go into work, her work, stand by her desk, throw some things over, make a complete mess. I'll move the printer, I'll move the laptop. She'll turn to me and she'll say, stop, baby, stop. But I'll insist, that's what work looks like. That's how it will look like all over this old world. That's what work looks like, baby. And it's time it looked like that for you too, girl. Don't call me girl. Yes, it's time it looked like that for you, equal of mine. Yes, it's time it looked like that for the whole world. Colin, could you please? There's still a mess in aisle 4, Colin. Thank you.
So that's the green room. How's work going to work? Thank you so much for joining. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank particular thanks to AVI SPL for their help in supporting the show, and I want to thank you for watching. Keep your eye on our show. Subscribe to the Green Room with David Pearl on YouTube. See you next time. Thanks. Hooray! We did it! We did it! We did it! Good. Thanks. Well done, everyone. Well done, everyone. So that's officially the end of the show, but, my friends, do not go anywhere. If you've got a few more minutes, I want to ask our guests to share some personal recommendations and inspirations. You know how it is, sometimes the best things are said when the meeting has finished, right? So keep watching and do share any thoughts in the comments box. Thanks. So we're coming towards the end of our allotted time here, and I just wanted to come back to you, my collaborator Julian, and looking back in terms of we had a little intention, we set a little intention, because of course intentionality is super important to make work groove, and our intention was to spark a little bit of hope, I think, in the future of work. How do you think we did, Julian?
I think we did fabulously well, and you know, we talked a lot about how everyone's feeling a little bit tired at the moment, a little bit despondent, but I didn't hear any of that in the conversation we had right now. I think the energy in the room has been awesome. I think everybody is really being hopeful, but not only hopeful, being creative. I think this is now the time for us to throw out the rule book that went before, because it doesn't mean anything. I think we can now free ourselves from that and actually really start to address the things that really matter. I think we need to include everybody in the conversation. We need to think about how not only do we solve a lot of our business problems, but how do we actually solve some of the other problems that we've not focused on as much as we could have done in the past. And I think this is a great time. And so for me, this is all about positivity, because we've had all the other stuff. We're done with the negativity and the division and all of that stuff. Let's focus on positivity. Let's focus on us creating not only the world that's going to work, but a world that we want to be part of and a one that we're going to flourish in.
Beautifully said, Julian. And on that positive note, I just want to give us a chance to, one of the things I love about the internet, you know, it's got its lightness and its shadows, but I love the way that people can advocate and they can recommend and pass on things they think are good. And so I just love, and this is true, by the way, if you guys on Zoom, if you've seen anything or anyone that's doing great work that you feel you'd love to kind of just shout out for them, just put it in the chat column now. Anyone that's doing stuff that you think, anything related to work or products that you've seen or something to do with sustainability, just so that we can end the green room on a generous note and make sure that we're sending out some little darts of love out there. Govinda, you're smiling inwardly. Anyone, any person or anything that you feel you just love to shine a little bit of a light on that's doing great work?
I think there's two things I'm going to shout out for. Condor Wessels.
Condor Wessels?
And I think they need a shout out.
What do you love about this? What do you love about this?
Well, I think their whole building is really exciting because it's incredibly sustainable. It's going to be a mostly timber construction, which hasn't been done very much, I don't think. And it's got biophilia and sustainability at the heart of it. And it's about changing the way we live. And I think that's really exciting. And then I just wanted to do something from a very, very personal thing. I missed the ballet, and I decided I was going to give them a shout out. So the ballet gets my love, because the one thing I don't want this COVID to do is take away our arts and our theatre. And it scares the life out of me that that's going to go. So
yeah, absolutely.
Big shout out to them.
Theatre, Neil, you don't know, is a prima ballerino, actually. He's got that. Yes, I only do in a chair. He does. Thank you so much. Oh, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Anuradha, anyone or thing that you'd love to just shine a bit of a light?
Can I shout out to you? I think this has been really good. It is the end of the day. It has been really, really good.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, that's really very sweet of you. Thanks. Kay, anyone or thing that you'd love to just kind of send a bit of love to, a bit of publicity to?
Yeah, we started this with you asking very sincerely how everybody was. And I consider myself amazingly fortunate and lucky. And I want to give a shout out to my youngest daughter, who's 18, and started COVID with having her senior year of high school interrupted and her freshman year of college. And I just cannot even imagine, when you think back in life, how pivotal that year, 2 or 3 years is, and just this whole younger generation who is having to deal with this. My heart goes out to them, and this is something that I hope they can turn around. I mean, I'm amazed at how positive they are about it. And it's almost like they're wearing it like a badge of honor or a badge of courage, and this is what they know. But I just can't even imagine they're going through. So no matter how hard we think we have it, they keep showing how positive they should be in this time, and my heart goes out to them.
Beautiful. Okay, what's your daughter's name, please?
Carly.
Carly. Well, here's to Carly. There are a couple of students on the line who are close to my heart. Elsa, Zach, love you lots, both of them at university doing their best under lockdown. Anyone else? Anyone else got a little shout out? Bruce, you see through your podcast and your work, you're seeing loads of great ideas. How often is your podcast, by the way?
Don't hold me to a regularity. But I've done about 26 of them this year.
They're really good. Eat, sleep, work, repeat, everyone. Eat, sleep, work, repeat. Yeah,
for me, it's, I mean, shout out to all the creators, people who created new stuff this year. And I think it's really interesting for me. This year, I've loved radio and I've loved new music. And I think the new music I've loved this year has been the intimacy of either playing it at home or listening to it on headphones. And I'm very excited about the gathering of going to see live music again next year.
Yeah.
I think that will be the payoff of this year.
Well, you're it, okay? People seem to think you're it. It's both ballet and live music. So right here, right now, any nice shout-outs from our Zoom chorus? Yeah, Fiona.
Yeah, I would like to shout out an extraordinary woman called Rachel Hewer. who very early on in lockdown decided to create an opera from lockdown, and she got us all recording our vocal parts at home, and then she edited it, and she superimposed our heads, the singers' heads, onto her own body. She had a green screen, and she played every single character in this opera with her body and our heads and our voices. And it's L'Enfant et les Sortilèges, which means the child and the spells, and the company is Vopra, so that's opera with a V. Go check them out, and Rachel, you're amazing.
And so, where would we see that?
You can find it on YouTube if you just search for Vopra and Marquee TV as well.
And are you in it?
I'm in it. I
well,
play
then
the snail.
Definitely we will, won't we? We will. Are you what kind of? Are you a sortilège or an enfant?
I'm a sortilège. I'm the snail.
You're a snail. It's typecasting, people. Rachel, what do we have from our Zoomistas?
We've had some really lovely comments throughout. Louise was saying a little bit earlier, one of the global corporates that she works with are talking about how, as a compassionate organisation, they are going to reskill 50% of their employees whose current jobs are being lost through AI and robotics, so that they can find new jobs inside and outside.
There's an idea for you if you happen to run a large corporation. Beautiful, yeah.
Really nice. Elsa said, no Pia, a new sustainability brand run by a friend of hers.
No Pla. I think it's no plastic, as in no plastic. No Pla. Is that right? Yeah, no Pla.
Sorry, Elsa. No Pla. Even better. And Simon said anything to do with rewilding.
Yeah, nice, nice. Beautiful. And that's no Pla. Is there a website there?
No, it's by Mia Morrison. So
Mia Morrison,
no Pla. Morrison.
Christmas presents with no plastic. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, I didn't introduce you to Tom, but by the way, Tom has been clicking away in the background. Thank you, Tom. Photographer to the stars. So I've got Vanessa going, and we've got to go, and Bruce is like, It just remains for me to say, go some live music, please, to give this out, and something we can clap along to, maybe. We're thinking about Carly, we're thinking about the new generations, we're thinking about the workplace of the future, and we're taking this one out with thanks. I want to thank our beautiful guests. I want to thank the workshop, the geniuses of the workshop. I want to thank the backstage of the backstage, which is the digital hub of everything. I want to thank my dear friends from Impropera, Neil Ashdown, Anthony Ingle. I want to thank the poet, Philip Cowell. I want to thank the scrapyard scribe, that is Simon Heath. I want to thank everybody, Chris, Klaus, Zachary, Louise. I want to thank you for a beautiful mindfulness thing. Nigel Tracese. I want to thank you for your great work, your patience, and for joining us. And for you out there, so say thank you for watching. Please subscribe to The Green Room with David Pearl. See you soon. Thanks very much. Yo! Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.